session is the school access connectivity update. Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. So you all may remember a couple of years back at the height of the pandemic and the bus driver shortage, we worked with the police department and schools to really review countywide schools and how parent drop-off and pickup was happening to see what could be done on-site as well as off-site. So they've gone through that exercise. I think they've made all of the on-site improvements they can. You know, when you think of that, you look at like Chick-fil-A as a good example, where they went from a single drive-through to a three-wide drive-through and have really optimized their on-site efficiency. So now we are looking at things off-site in advance of this year's CIP, and did want to thank the folks from police, so Jason Stocks and John Kibbenauer, as well as schools, which is Glenn Pike and Josh Davis. So with that, I'll get to the list that they came up with, and this is in kind of the order that we'd see it. I will kind of qualify that as being, this was all qualitative. So this was really just as, using their expertise and looking where they see the daily issues. So first on your screen in front of you, you'll see Cosby High School. Obviously no secret that this school is brimming at the gills with students, and equally so sees lots of drop-off, lots of student drivers, and lots of congestion in the mornings. We are starting to see, some unique situations in terms of even queuing on Hull Street at this point because of the congestion. So it is getting to the point where it is creating safety issues. One of the things that you see on the screen here that the group came up with as a potential at least mitigation effort would be to provide an additional access to Village Square Parkway, which is the orange arrow that you see on the screen. In addition, schools, since we did this, has actually removed their kind of singular trailers and installed 2 units of mega trailers towards the rear of Cosby High School. So they also need to replace some parking. So we're looking at crafting this up as kind of an overall project of parking replacement and an additional access. So we will craft this, and that will be under consideration for this year's CIP. Which does, dovetail nicely into saying that we had our first meeting with Gerard today, and those applications are due in about a month. So this is certainly a timely presentation. Any questions on this one?
I think, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I think one of the other things I suggested on this too was a double entrance on that southern main entrance coming in.
Yes, sir.
In order to be able to get traffic off of Fox Club Parkway in the morning. And we do know from the Oasis Sports Park case that was approved earlier in the year, well, last year, I guess, this may be early this year, that there are some improvements to Hull Street and Fox Club that will be coming, but that'll be down the road quite a ways before any of that happens. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, sir, that's correct. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces to this one. You accurately, mentioned the development on the east side of Fox Club, so we'll have to take that into account and make sure that, everything fits together nicely. But certainly this is one that we think should be a priority to work on. The next one, which is a little ways down the street, is Grange Hall Elementary School, which you can see on the screen. So this one is a little different in that the challenge they're having is they've actually got drivers queuing up on the shoulder of Hull Street. And if you've driven this section of Hull Street, I think it's posted 55. People are driving I always drive 7 over, so I'll just go ahead and say 62 plus. So
the sheriff in the back. We have.
He doesn't do it when the flashing signs are
That's right, okay. That's right. So it's a high-speed location. There is queuing, which is dangerous on Hull Street. So what we've looked at is try to circulate folks better through the site, as well as getting a traffic signal on Beaver Bridge. One of the challenges, again, that the folks have out here is if you try to turn left there, it really, really is hard with the high-speed traffic and an unsignalized crossover. So this is, again, a little bit different from Cosby, but the same sort of theory in that there are legitimate safety issues out here. The one thing is, obviously, there are plans to replace Grange Hall. The enrollment has been decreasing, so we want to make sure that what we're doing will serve future needs as well.
Jesse, I have a general question.
Sure.
What is the frequency now of parents driving their children to school versus children riding the bus to school? Are we back to normal? Are we somewhere in the middle? Are we still driving
Yeah, so to your question, it's less than it was at the height of the pandemic. Obviously, schools has done a great job of bringing in additional bus drivers, but what we've heard from them is all the buses are full now. So then the balance of those folks are driving their children to school. So it's not at the height of the pandemic, but it's not pre-pandemic levels either in terms of folks that are riding the bus. So it's more than it used to be.
And I just bring that up because obviously that's a big factor in additional infrastructure costs for any of these schools as we evaluate, you know, that volume coming in to those campuses that just wasn't designed for that on a daily basis. I just, yeah.
Yes, sir, you're 100% correct. We used to only see these volumes on like rainy days where kids didn't want to stand out in the rain and wait for the bus. All the parents would drop them off. Now it's basically a daily occurrence, and these schools were not designed for that.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Carroll.
Isn't it true that some of that has to do with the fact that some of these schools are way above what they're programmed for with capacity? Specifically, we'll talk about Cosby High School for a second, which is above capacity and projected to be way above capacity, which is why we have a potential another high school location out on the upcoming bond referendum.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So next one on the list, Ms. Carroll, obviously in the Midlothian district, so this is Midlothian High School. Again, kind of the same sort of thing that you see with Cosby High School in terms of it has multiple entrances, but they all put you out on Charter Colony Parkway. We did have a fairly serious pedestrian collision out there. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. My memory doesn't serve me very well anymore, but lots of stuff going on Charter Colony. It's a very busy road in the mornings and afternoons. So in talking with police and the folks over at schools, they thought that, you know, if there's a way to get an additional access out to Coalfield, which is the line you see in that orange-yellow color, that could benefit the school as well. Obviously, would have to acquire some off-site right-of-way. Will not be a cheap project, but it would make sense to at least start getting that in the queue, shaping up what it looks like as a project, and seeing if there's a way to make that happen, to relieve some of those issues they have at Midlothian High School. This is some lower hanging fruit that we saw. So this is in your district, Mr. Engel. So this is between Thomasdale High School and Curtis Elementary School. What they've always wanted is for a way for the folks at Curtis to get out to Old Centralia where there's a traffic signal. Right now they can't do that. So school staff did actually go out there shortly after we met, looked at some of the grade differences, whether or not it's possible. You know, for example, in that front bus loop, I believe they do some of their marching band practices at the high school. So there would be some operational things, some infrastructure items that we need to be taken care of. But it's not impossible. But I think it's going to take a lot of coordination between the schools to see if that can work. So that's a little lower hanging fruit. This is one that is actually funded. So Mr. Winslow, this is in your district. So this is Evergreen Elementary School. It is tucked way back there within the subdivision. For years we've heard, hey, it's really hard to get out on Evergreen Parkway, particularly at Lux, especially now that it's 4 lanes. You again have an unsignalized 4-lane divided facility. So what would help would be a traffic signal and another way out. Thankfully, we have built that into the zoning of what was the old Evergreen property. It's now owned by Riverstone. They have some retail up towards the front on Lux Lane where you see that traffic signal drawn in, and then some multifamily units coming online between the school and Lux Lane. I've been in discussions with them, and they're trying to get moving as quickly as possible to both build the road, put in the traffic signal, of course, all in totality with their development. So we should see that break ground this year, and hopefully they'll have this infrastructure in before the school year next year. And then lastly, this is actually a subject that came up during the zoning of the Smith property, which is over here. You can see the label for Watercrest Richmond on the map. But we realized at the time in discussions with schools, particularly the folks over at Woolridge Elementary, that they were way underparked. They could use some parking lot improvements. So that was crafted into the zoning case for the Smith property, which is, you know, the development over here. And happy to report that we were able to offset some of their cash proffers, and they volunteered to redo the parking lot at Woolridge, and we were able to squeeze that in this past summer just before school started. So that's a picture of that completed project, and really is an improvement to that facility and adds a lot more parking to that school. So with that, that's everything within the presentation. Certainly happy to answer any questions. And in terms of next steps, so you will likely see some of these discussed as part of the upcoming budget and CIP process. With that said as well, I know we've also had other requests from other folks. So if you have anything that comes up, please let us know. We'll be happy to take a look at those as well.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Smith.